What's up, guys? Luke Dancy here. Welcome to this week's episode of Unplugged with our special guest, Sean Scott. He's going to give you the lowdown, the real work on what street magic really is. People think it's one thing, but I'm pretty sure that you're not informed. You don't know exactly what the real street magic is. It's called busking, and we'll talk more about it in just a minute. Up first, I got free magic to hook you guys up with, and winners from last week. So this week up for grabs is this. We've got Sandwich Change from Sans Minds Magic. This is a sandwich effect, obviously, where an indifferent card is placed in between some sandwich cards, and visually, that card changes into the signed card that someone just picked a moment ago. This is just now available. It's available worldwide, but we've got a couple copies to give away. So if you want to win it, drop a like and comment on this video, and you're automatically entered to win Sandwich Change. You want to know the best part? The gimmick comes pre-made. Check out the trailer. It does look really good. It's a good one, guys. Last week's winners, though, they win a free copy of Sentimental. A lot of people say it's one of their favorite trailers that they've seen in a really long time. Our YouTube winner was Jacob Martinez Magic. It's our YouTube winner. And our Facebook winner is Rick Robinson. So congrats to our winners from last week. I'll drop you guys a message, and we'll hook you guys up with a free copy of Sentimental. But today, it's all about street magic and creating magic and performing. And cats. Obviously, I've got Sean popping in here with his cats. So let me jump on over to our guest today, Sean Scott. And the cat
Hey guys,
disappears when you come on camera. What's going on? That's funny.
Cat gone.
Oh man,
I guess
welcome. How are you, my friend?
Doing real good today, man. So it's gonna be a good one. How are you doing?
So far, so good. It's always good to see you, even if it's like this. It's always good, my friend. It's always good to see you. And that's what's fun about living in Vegas, guys, is you start to befriend people that are out there performing and doing stuff, and some of the creators out here. We get together every now and then, and Sean and I have gotten to be pretty good friends here over the last couple of years, I'd say. So it's really cool to have him on here. I'm excited for you guys to learn more about him and his magic, the way that he thinks. And so if you have any questions for Sean, feel free to drop those in the comments. That's why we're here, obviously. But Sean, why don't you give the guys a little background on where you came from? Have you always lived in Vegas? And what is it that you do out here on the streets of Las Vegas?
Well, I grew up, first of all, in Indianapolis, Indiana. And you may recognize that. Everyone knows that as the entertainment capital of the world. So I grew up in Indy. And Indy's like a moderate-sized town. It's not as big as Chicago. And not as maybe as small as Vegas, a little bigger than Vegas, I think. But I guess I grew up there, started magic when I was around 14 years old. It was kind of a epiphany kind of thing. I don't think I, at that moment, had any real hard interest in too many things. I was doing like martial arts, and that was about my only extracurricular activity, and I went to a David Copperfield show.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody gave me a ticket, said, "Hey, let's go see the magic show." And I swear it was after that show was over, a guy like, just me with no theatrical ability whatsoever, no athletic ability really. I stood up in this, college theater in Indianapolis called Clues Hall. And I said to myself, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life.
Wow.
It was that clear of an arrow, a shot, and so it was just kind of a memorable moment. But so from there, I just kind of went forward to the magic clubs, growing up, going to the lectures, learning as much as I can, performing, doing all the free shows you could do, performing for your friends who get sick of it after a while. And then I slowly started doing more gigs. I actually landed my first restaurant gig when I was like 16, 17 years old. I got a book from, I think it was Charles Green, Texas magician, and it was all on how to go out and solicit for restaurant magic. And at 17 years old, I was able to land this little restaurant gig on the corner at a Holiday Inn.
Nice.
Yeah, they had a a bar and a restaurant, so it was busy on the weekends, and so yeah, for a kid, 16 years old back in 1988, 89. I walked in, I was making what I thought was good money, like $15 an hour, plus tips. Uh, yeah, that was kind of an accomplishment, you know, for me. So I did that like for like a little over a year, and then as I got older, I worked at Illusions Restaurant.
Oh, so
Um,
cool.
Kind of like it was once kind of like the Magic Castle of the Midwest. A lot of guys came out of there, such as Mike Close, Chris Kenner, Homer Lewag. Like Chris Korn would kind of stop by once in a
Oh
while.
yeah.
Um, so and a lot of big names came through there, and that's where I really learned to cut my teeth doing table magic, doing stand-up magic.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I learned so much there. Um, and then about 8 years ago, finally decided to up and move out to Las Vegas. And I've been here 8 years. Kind of struggled at first getting here. Especially working the street, I was just horrible. Um, you think you're good after 20 years in magic at something, and then you find out how like inadequate you are when you're on the mean streets of Vegas.
Yep.
And yeah, and kind of here I am today. That's the nutshell.
So 8 years in Vegas. You've been around doing this for a while now, and you've obviously, as you said, you kind of cut your teeth straight up doing it. I mean, there is no other way to do this stuff, and I think that's what's cool to hear your background too. Is it's all performing, performing, performing. Obviously, you also have a line of products that are also on the market. I thought it'd be kind of fun to take a little peek at the Murphy's website. We have a few, and I'm going to in particular, we've got a video to show of Rise, but we carry a few of your items as well. We've got Render, which was a really, I think that trick, honestly, Sean, was ahead of its time with cell phones, cell phone magic, very much ahead of its time.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's true, man. It's true. Factory line, which was a fun little thing. That was the one with the car, right? The car thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Factor Line, and just a note about that, Bizarro. If you guys know who Bizarro is here in Vegas, he and I have a new version of Factory Line coming out in the near future. Yeah, right now they're kind of knocking it out, and it's Factory Line, but it is like Bizarro's touch on all of it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he really kind of took the same story and just made it a lot more visual. So if you guys get to see this, hopefully you'll get to see a trailer in the very near future. It's really cool.
Nice. So you guys got a little exclusive here. Some new stuff coming from Sean and Bizarro. Bizarro is one of those guys that everyone just, I don't know how he thinks the way that he does. Everyone looks at him and goes, how do you do that? How do you think that way? So that's a good combo, teaming up with old Bizarro. That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. So.
And I think the one trick that really made a big splash in the industry was this one. I'm going to pop this up on the screen. This is Rise. I know people have seen this. It's been out for a while, but people continue to use it because of how visual and how good it is. And I'll let you kind of talk through this as you can see the trailer playing. But I mean, you perform on the streets. This is perfect for what you do, man.
Yeah, this is. I tell you, this was like something. Probably like 9 years overall in development. I made the first versions really early on, and they're nothing like what's available right now. The thing right now is like the BMW of what previously I made. But yeah, it's people don't expect it. It's kind of disarming, and I don't think there's really anything else like it in Magic when it comes to like a can production.
Yep.
Or something like that.
Yeah. It's one of those things perfect for the street. And as you guys saw in the description there, the little ad copy that popped up, you can do this with a signed can too, because it's a crushed can, and then you step on it and it's restored again. And you in clean, which is great. You were able to show, as you saw in the trailer, show the bottom of your shoe. The whole thing is so well thought out. Definitely one of my favorite things from you, and of course roaming. But yeah, and that's what I love. You create stuff that you actually
Nice.
use. You don't see that all the time, sadly, these days. So it's nice when
Yeah.
you know people actually use the stuff they create. So yeah. Um,
Yeah.
you ready to jump into some questions? We got some live questions. I know we've kept the guys waiting here. You ready to jump into some of those?
Yeah. Fire away. Let's talk.
Sweet. And we'll talk more about your magic as we go too, obviously. Um, there was one that popped in earlier that was about portable sound systems, which Thomas Ronda over on Facebook says, "What portable sound system do you use?" Great question. Obviously, you're out on the street. You want to get those crowds, keep them there. What kind of sound system are you using out there?
I'll tell you this, where I work is almost at least half the time one of those worst case scenario environments,
Okay.
which means it's loud.
Yep.
It's you've got concerts, in a really close proximity. You're on a concrete floor,
Mm-hmm.
which just makes the sound bounce, 10 times more. So the decibels get really high. But what I use is a pretty big speaker. It's called a QSC 12. So it's the largest size this company makes. QSC is a really well-known brand. It's a really good speaker. So it's big. I have it hooked up to a big rolling cart,
Mm-hmm.
and I have my props on top of that in a box. So I am able to go out at night when it's 9 o'clock and there's a lot of noise from the stages, the people, and my speaker will kind of cut through that.
Cool.
The other speaker, though, that I would recommend if you're talking about busking in normal environments where it's maybe semi kind of loud,
Yeah.
is this new Bose that they make. And I forgive me, I can't recall what the model is or the make. If you want to know, you can email me. I'll be happy to look it up for you and tell you.
Cool.
But about like 3 or 4 other performers on Fremont Street are using this right now, and it's about this big.
Oh, let me go back to you.
Yeah, and it even has. You can even get a backpack for this thing. Bose makes a really cool backpack.
Oh, cool.
You can drop it in, and yeah, you can roam that way. But this thing has a really strong, like high gain on it, and it can push your voice like through through environments like Fremont Street remarkably well. I've never heard anything like it. So I really recommend that one. It's I forget what the weight on it is. It's not crazy. It's something you could carry, if you needed to. It's not the lightest thing.
Clive says this. It's not the Bose S1 Pro, is it?
If Clive is on there, then yes, Clive has the one that I would be speaking about. Yes.
Okay, cool. Appreciate you, Clive. Thanks, man.
So yeah, so that's what I know. Really works. Well. But I've actually thought several times about going to that thing since it's a lot smaller and lighter than what I carry. But then again, I'm always that guy. Like how do you say it? I hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Okay.
So that's my story.
So when it comes to performing street magic, I want to get this kind of out there because we're starting to dip into some of the technical stuff. People think street magic is something that David Blaine started with TV cameras, people freaking out, putting it on TV. Because I think his very first special was called Street Magic, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that the case?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So people think that's what it is, but the reality is there's a whole other world to this stuff, a reality, a real world for street busking, street performing, and busking is what it's actually called. Why don't you shed the light on what street magic really is? Because I think it was this created for TV thing that exists, but in a whole different way that people even know about. And you're doing this in Las Vegas, one of the busiest, most visited cities in the world. People coming in, it's like a revolving door. What are you actually out there doing for people, and what is street magic?
Well, I think that term has obviously been used, pretty generically in the last, I don't know, 10,
Yep.
15 years in magic. And it's, maybe lots of times used in the vein of TV shows and products, that are released.
Yep.
Um, and a lot of those effects that are described as street magic can be performed, on the street, certainly. Um, but I think when you see those situations where the tricks are performed, where there's like, one or two people, watching this, just high caliber effect, that no one's ever seen before, when you see those examples of that being performed, like you have to be able to get to that moment. You have to have the people in front of you.
Yep.
If you're roaming out with a camera, and you know this, Luke, and from your background, like um, you can, find people on the street. Hey, we'd like to show you something. Come over, and then, your magician comes in and you shoot the shot, and it looks great. It looks like those people were ready to see an awesome magic trick just at the drop of a hat.
Hmm.
And that is not the case when you're referring to busking.
Right.
Like you have to basically, stick your foot out and trip them to get them to stop.
Yeah.
Lots of times, I think a lot of guys will agree with that. So, yeah, I don't want to come out and start sounding like some traditionalist, like, oh, I know what David Blaine's doing, and
Sure.
anyone else in the last 10 years been on TV. That's not street magic. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just we've got to get to those moments, where you can do those awesome effects for people.
Yep.
So you've got to stop them, and stopping them is kind of, I think, where the traditionalists kind of like, the buskers like to say, well, you've got to get somebody's attention, you've got to want them to watch, and finish the show, and finish, what basically what lets you take a paycheck home at the end of the day.
Right. And it's something where you're constantly having to start over and build a crowd over and over and over again. And it's
Yeah.
not just you do one show, one performance, and you're done. Once you're done with that one, people go, and then you have to get a whole new crowd, build the crowd again, and go into it. A specific thing that just came up, which I'm glad did come up, because this is something I think people should know about 100%. Ellis Cohen brings it up here. He says, what about getting or not getting permits? So when it comes to doing busking or street performing, even if it's not magic, I think that's important for people to realize, especially in a city like Las Vegas. I know the answer, but do you need to have a permit to go out and do street performing?
Uh, the short answer in concerning Vegas is no.
Okay.
Um, that said, though, there's a little more to it than that, and it depends where you're trying to perform in Vegas. On Fremont Street, there's a lottery system
Right.
that you can get into to have a spot. On the Strip, you kind of take your chances with the local, municipality. The police are not friendly at all
Mm-hmm.
to people that try to work just the sidewalk in Vegas. But there are other parts of the country that do require permits. Um, and constitutionally speaking, it kind of gets into like really gray area. Technically, you don't have to have a permit,
Mm-hmm.
but it's easier for you just to go get a permit and play their game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that kind of answers, the question. So
Yeah, I mean it's very especially down on the Fremont Street area here. This people call that the old side of Vegas, the old school, the original OG side of Vegas.
yeah,
It's full of street performers. People music, people playing music, people dancing, people doing magic. There's a few magicians down there. At least the times I've been there, there's been probably two or three, if not more, set up,
mm-hmm.
and it's fun to walk through there and see all this stuff, but it's interesting how you guys have your designated areas, and I like how it revolves or rotates so that one person doesn't get like the hot spot. What is it, like every hour you guys have to kind of change spots and move to the next spot, or is it even less than that? I thought it was an hour, but
Every 2
over
hours.
2 hours. Wow. Okay. That's
Yeah,
cool. Okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Wow. So if someone's thinking of doing this in a busy city, I know that Key West is a big place. I know that Gazo used to go and do a lot of this stuff in different places. If people are thinking of doing this type of stuff in a big city, should they look to get permits? Is that your professional opinion on that? Because, like you said, there's certain parts of Vegas where you can take a chance, but that might not end up ending well for you. So,
Um, yeah, it's it's one of those things like Key West, for example. I don't know about the permit situation,
mhm.
but what I do know is there's a real established hierarchy
Okay.
with going into that environment. There are people who have been there, for years, who have a priority on spots, on positions,
Mhm.
in whatever walk or venue that people, are coming through. Um, and from city to city, it all varies. If you're required to get a permit, then by all means, get the permit. Uh, you know, because that's just going to be one. That's going to be the first hurdle in learning about the environment that you're walking into. Um, like you have to learn if there's a lottery system, how often your number may come up in the lottery system. If your number doesn't come up, do you still get to work? How much do you get to work?
Mhm.
Can you pay your bills playing it like that, where you're not getting a number but going out there and just waiting to see if someone shows up or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, financially, you got to really approach that, in a good sense, in a good way.
Sure. Um, a couple questions coming in too about Rise actually. Um,
Okay.
Mark wanted to know with the Rise trick, how easy is the reset? So with Rise resetting it, how easy?
Oh, it's like a 5 second thing.
Oh, cool. All right,
Like lock and load.
sweet. It's about as long as it took you to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not exaggerating. So
um, where can I buy it? Gonzalez asking. You can pick up Rise or any of Sean's effects that we carry from your favorite magic shop. So just reach out to your favorite magic shop.
sure.
Uh, this is what it looks like. There's the packaging for it. So that is beautifully done. That was something that
I also can get them through my website as well if you want to go there
oh cool.
too. I'll
Okay,
just throw that out there. So
cool. There was another question about it. How many uses would you get out of each can? So is there a limitation on how many times you can? Because people are coming in that's not knowing how any of this works. So yeah, any limitations
uh,
on uses of each can?
several. There's nothing gimmicked about the can.
Right.
So
Cool.
you shouldn't. Yeah, be all right.
Very good. When it comes back to street performing and the busking, Benny Chickering would like to know: do you feel that busking is dying out due to Instagram magic, or does it make people want to sit and watch more? So, real world versus Instagram and social media. Um, do you feel like busking slash street performing is being hit at all as far as people doing it?
If there's any threat to busking as a dying art, it would probably come from what is happening in modern politics,
Hmm. Interesting.
with constitutional, laws and the way the courts tend to rule. Like in California right now, they're doing a lot with moving the homeless population.
Right.
And the way that affects us is that starts to get into constitutional rights on where you can stand on a sidewalk, where you can't, for how long. Uh, you know, that's really, when you're asking me that question, that's the only thing that comes to my mind in that regard. Um, the only other way I would think about your question is, you mentioned like Instagram, and maybe you're trying to say that just the exposure element, maybe, am I understanding that right?
I think it's a mixture of that, but also the fact that people are used to now just performing in front of their phone, in front of their camera. Do you feel like people are leaning more towards doing that than street performing or live entertainment in general? Let's make it even a little bit more
Um,
vague. Yeah.
I think I don't know. I mean, if you're happy doing magic on Instagram, and
Yeah.
that's okay, that's fine. But are you satisfied with that? And I mean, I don't think there's going to be. I think a magician's going to have a relatively short shelf life if you're just an Instagram magician, and
Hmm.
that's all you can do. So
Yeah.
I hope I'm answering this okay, but
Yeah, no, I mean it's things are definitely changing and evolving, so it's always good to for us on the inside, to look at what's going on and see what we think. So yeah, that's good.
okay, all
Um,
right.
as a creator, this one comes in from YouTube. Our buddy over there, Gonzalini, Gonzalini. How do you recommend to get ideas for creating magic? And obviously, that's a huge topic, but maybe you could kind of sum it up on different ways that you've used to help when it comes to creating your own magic or even magic that you're using on the street with your street performing stuff.
I'll tell you my experience here and try to kind of summarize. Um, when I started to create some of the best magic that I can say that I've come out with, it was a situation where I moved in when I lived back in Indiana. I moved into an arts community,
Hmm.
and what that means is, in my example, there was a large building full of like 30 artists who were all art school students, and so I lived in this building. It was a big project. These we were given these big loft apartments. They were awesome place. It was like every guy's dream to have this big loft and you know have all your gear, your illusions spread out, in there like a warehouse. Um, and so through the course of living here for several years, I made friends, connections with the other artists. That started, I think, to take my attention in learning in different directions.
Cool.
I had friends that did steel sculpture, who did painting, who did photography, um, who kind of approached their art craft organically. Like this is a piece of steel. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to grind it. I'm going to color it. And when I knew, okay, you can make your own props. You can make your own magic. You know, and it's going to take you more time, but there's a real great sense of accomplishment when you take something from nothing and make it into something really cool. And you just got to give yourself, I think, a license to say, you know what, it's okay for me to my trick, whatever I create, is just as good as someone else's in its own right. Um, I can pick up a deck of cards and sit here and just kind of hold it at different angles and think of something that might look interesting at this angle.
Yep.
You don't have to have the 20 years of experience of card magic. You don't have to be an Alan Ackerman, to come up with something that like no one has seen before and has some value in it. Um, by the way, I love Alan Ackerman. I wish I could do a tenth of what that man does.
He's
He's
amazing.
a freaking genius.
Yeah.
Um, but so I think where I made the most progress was being in a creative environment around influences that were not magic and letting myself learn more about those and just letting myself get lost in, um, you know, just a different way of thinking and, how someone else looks at their craft.
Right on. Well said.
Step out of magic sometimes. Step out of the box.
It's very good advice. Very, very good advice because we do end up looking at things in that bubble sometimes, and
Yeah.
the outside inspiration a lot of times can actually help you a whole lot when it comes to your magic.
Yeah.
Um, this is a really, really good question coming in from Tony over on YouTube. This is kind of like about pocket management and stuff like that. He wants to know, how do you prepare to do street magic? Slash, what do you take with you in your pockets? So when it comes to preparing to go out and perform, and this could pretty much go with not just street performing, I guess, but anyone that's doing walk around close up stuff, or walk around performer. Um, how do you prepare yourself to go out there when it comes to keeping track of all your stuff? And because as magicians, we
Hmm.
got a lot of fun toys on us. So,
Sure. I would also I first start by saying this. How long do you see yourself performing for any given group of people?
Uh,
Okay, let's say 15 minutes. So maybe have uh, maybe have three card effects you can do with a normal deck, where you have to, reach into the right pocket to add, add a stack, add a gimmick, um, left pocket, like make three tricks that can be done just out of this one deck of cards. Nothing comes out of your pockets to accomplish that. And then with the remaining space you have in your pockets,
hmm.
fill those with other tricks so that you can do a few things with the deck of cards. You can reach into your right pocket for coins. You could, reach into your left pocket to grab, like, cup and a ball. That way, you're not, you're not so loaded up and fumbling with like two or three effects in one pocket trying to get to something. Um, because if you're only doing 15 minutes, then maybe you only need five tricks.
Yep. Yep.
You know, think about the timeline.
Well said. That is one thing I think a lot of people forget, is that it's not that you always have to do a lot of tricks. As someone with a background in restaurant magic, it's not like you have to bring a whole lot of stuff. You can do, have a couple of sets on you, a couple of sets, and then you can
Right.
just repeat those over and over again. So I think sometimes people, they overcompensate. They bring way too much, thinking they have to have more when they just need to be able to do what they have on them. And I know, Skinner, Michael Skinner, one of our Vegas guys, down at the Golden Nugget. From what I hear, stories about him, people would say, "Oh, how many tricks do you do?" You go, "Oh, I do, however many." "Oh, I thought you did more." I said, "No, I do these. But I do them damn good. I do them better than anybody else. So it's not about how
Right.
many, it's just about doing them well too." So
Yeah, that's exactly it.
yeah.
At just a little thing about Illusions Restaurant, where I was going to several tables and doing magic. There were maybe four or five magicians on like a weekend night,
Mhm.
and we were basically responsible for going to all the tables and doing magic, right after the other. So there would be a sign up sheet. So the servers would sign up the magicians for the tables. So, your act is like 10 or 15 minutes, or, that you're going to perform for these folks after their dinner. And yeah, that's all you've got time for,
Yeah.
So you don't have to walk into the restaurant, with a big suitcase and then, set everything up necessarily. Like come, yeah, put everything in your jacket before you leave home if you want. Hang
Yeah.
it on the back of your car seat there, and then yeah, I think this is a subject that's been discussed in other places too. Like, just walk in with what's in your pockets.
Yep.
Like boil it down to that.
Speaking of the restaurant magic and stuff like that, Mark has a good question that I would actually like to know the answer to as well. Mark Wybrow over on Facebook says, "Why street magic rather than working restaurants, clubs, pubs, or even theaters? What was it that made you choose street magic as like your main thing, at least for the time being?"
Yeah. Well, for example, in this town, working the street is somewhat more accessible
Mm-hmm.
than knocking on doors in restaurants or clubs to get in there to do magic. There's a big challenge too here in Vegas if you're going to clubs and restaurants trying to get in the door to perform, because like here you've got such a heavy flux of tourists and even locals who come out to party. When you start to, if you walk to several of these establishments to pitch the magic, they don't need it.
Right.
Like that's their mentality. Even though it probably would like make the environment, a lot more fun. It would bring more folks into their business. They really look at it like, well, we don't need this. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little more of a challenge here in a town where you've got so much entertainment at everyone's feet. Um, so that's kind of, you know, how my path has unfolded here.
Sure. Um, Good question coming in from YouTube, and you guys are full of great questions. Keep them coming. This is great. You doing all right over there, Sean? You doing all right, man?
Oh yeah,
Good.
great.
All right.
Keep it coming. Let's do it.
Wait. Um, This one's great. Gonzalini over on the old YouTube says, I do street magic, and one of my most important problems is that I don't know how to introduce myself. How do you do this? So, man, introductions, big, big, big topic. I know you've got some advice on that one.
Um, so introducing yourself, as far as are you trying to stop them, or are you just trying to? Well, I'll just take it on its face value
Sure.
as introducing yourself, like hi, hello.
Or maybe
Um,
even introducing yourself as a magician, specifically. Yeah.
right. So here's the way to look at it, and I think I'm, you know, really appreciating this more and more here, and in the last few years. If they're walking by me, I need to introduce myself in a way to them that says I'm fun,
Hmm.
I'm entertaining, uh, and the part about who I actually am, my name, that's secondary.
Sure.
So if I see people someone walking by, I just say random things just to kind of make them laugh. You know, um, for instance, they're walking down Fremont Street, and Fremont Street is crazy. I say, hey, hey, don't go that way. Come back, come back. There's just more alcohol and vomit that way. Come back here. Come watch something cool. And they'll kind of snicker.
That's good.
Or my favorite line, and it's not my line. I kind of have to footnote this, is Adam Flowers, Chris Randall used to say this a lot about Fremont Street. It's where someone walks by, I'll say, "Welcome to Fremont Street, where Walmart and Disney have kids." And what happens when you say something funny? They'll kind of like stop for a minute,
Sure.
and they'll look back your way. When they look your way, look at them and say, "Hey, come on, that's the truth, right? I'm not lying." Start a conversation with them, just based on the situation.
Sure.
Something's funny. Somebody drops something walking by you. Oh, gravity sucks, doesn't it? I hate that. You know, and those, you know, so that's how I would say, as far as an introduction, you know, um, but once they're in front of you, you know, you can say, "Hey, hi, folks, how you doing? Let me show you something." Like if you're doing street magic, cut to the chase. Get in there. Don't ask. Actually, another street performer used to work out here was Grendel. Um, he made a good point to me once. Don't stand there with your deck of cards and say, "Here, would you like to take a card? Here, would you like to see a magic trick?"
Hmm.
He actually took the deck and said, "Here, take a card.
Smart. Don't even give them a chance to
Don't
say no.
don't
Yeah.
make it optional. You
Yeah.
got to understand how human response works." So,
Smart.
I hope I'm answering your question, Mark. I hope that's
It's just
what you were asking.
introducing yourself. I know a lot of people, it's not even sometimes about the specifics. Sometimes it's just that they're so damn nervous of rejection. And that's just with anything. Obviously the more you do it, the more you will get comfortable with that rejection because it will happen. But I think that's always one big intimidating thing for people, especially magicians. Like, what if they say no? It's like going to talk to a girl that you like, and well, what if she doesn't like me? It's kind of the same deal. So
Yeah, yeah, and I go through that too.
sure.
I mean, I certainly have anxiety out there some nights. It's I'll think about stuff like that, and how nervous I am on one particular night for some stupid reason. Um, but once like the fun kind of kicks in, once somebody laughs, man, it just creates that slide. You know, okay, oh, hey, my name's Sean. Like I think it's just easier to break the ice
Yep.
with
Yep.
that.
This one comes in from Farouk. This is a great question. Um, over on YouTube, he wants to know, what is that one busking tip that you wish you were given 8 years ago? So back when you moved here to Vegas, is there one thing or maybe a couple of things that you wish you had known then that you know now? I'm sure there's more than one or two, but yeah.
So I'll tell you something funny.
Okay.
This is also somewhat embarrassing, but I think you asked the right question, right? Um, you know, like I was trying to right off the bat figure out, how to stop people. Like I was really worried I wasn't going to be able to stop people.
Mhm.
So I created this little like self levitation thing, and I had this crazy little like little block of wood that I put on the ground, and I stood in front of it, and it had like side panels, and I had this crazy Japanese like skirt on, like these goggles. Like I looked like some crazy like a Kurosawa Walmart version of a samurai, and I would just do this little levitation thing, and like I was so afraid of interacting with people. I was so afraid kind of looking at them and making a joke and starting off the act that way. So I just kind of went inward, and I thought, well, if I just stand here and levitate, everyone in Vegas will stop and look at me. And guess what? No, not so much. Like, I can't really tell you that made the impact I thought it would. So the tip would be, um, understand first what you want to do, and if there are other people in magic who can kind of help you with that point, such as if you're nervous about stopping crowds and talking to people on the street, maybe Jeff McBride's class might be something you consider stepping into, or reading some books that Gazzo's written, or other street performers like Eric Evans,
Mhm.
um, or going like the biggest thing, the thing that I really understand now has been invaluable to me is watching other street performers in Vegas. That's big. So if you watch other street performers, even on YouTube, um, just look at them and kind of see, okay, this is how I would, okay, I need to kind of try to work on this more. Try to understand your weaknesses. So that would be, I guess, the tip. That would probably, be at the top of my list.
Very good. All right. I also notice, along with a few of the groups that we're out on, we've got some questions coming in too. This one comes in from David over on the Area 52 Facebook group. He was asking about, what books would you recommend? Obviously, you just dropped a couple of names there, a couple of book recommendations. I know Cellini had some good work too, didn't he? I think there was actually a DVD on Cellini's work, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then he also had a second question, which was, where do you see street magic in 20 years? So the future of it, where do you see things going with street magic?
Um, so as far as books, um, I have a book, and it's not necessarily set on street magic, but it's called Stronger Magic
Mm-hmm.
by
Oh,
Ortiz.
Darwin Ortiz. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's a great book that helps you understand why magic is strong. You know,
yep.
when when we perform in the course of a trick, for example, a card trick, the strongest thing to a spectator when doing a card trick is always going to be in that moment where you put their card back in and you give the deck to them to shuffle.
Yep.
If they sit there and shuffle that deck, then that creates a much stronger, effect in their mind. So the book is filled with a lot of things like that. So I like that book. Another book I have here is Gazzo's, I think it's Read Between the Lines, or Between the Lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a thin manuscript, but it gives you lots of lines, lots of one-liners. Not all of them you may want to use. So, yeah, because we're all not Gazzo. But you can pick and choose these and drop them in your show, and they're great things to say when you don't know what to say. Um, and as far as where do I see street magic going, the one thing that I kind of like constantly, like, I'll look up during my show and I'll see people, usually younger people, watching my show, and they're looking down, texting on their phones. How do I compete with that?
Yeah.
You've got to find, like, I don't know. I think there is like a real decline in attention span.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
kind of, it's going to be continually, kind of more prevalent in our society. And I'm not saying that's awful or something. Or but if you're going to have to find um, more ways of connecting to the audience. There is a magician out on Fremont Street. His name is Joel, and he gets a really big crowd with doing like iPhone, something on iPhone magic, with iPhone magic, like taking a picture of a card, and then the picture changes, and he gets like a really big crowd off of doing this. Um, so in doing things with phones, I do the floating phone, roaming, and I think that may stop people at the beginning because they see someone floating a cell phone and they're already on their phone all day anyway.
Mhm.
So, well, what's going on? What's he doing with this, with this phone? So maybe our subject matter will have to change a little bit. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what that exactly looks like. I just know the attention span issue is going to,
Oh yeah.
kind of be an issue. So,
Based around that comment, Thomas Ronda had a good question over on old Facebook. He says, "How long, time wise, is your set or sets?" So, based on what you were just saying, have you adjusted your sets, or have you always kind of kept them around the same amount of time? And if so, by about how long are they?
my time out there currently is about 15 to 20 minutes at the most.
Okay.
I'm trying to make that longer.
Uh huh.
Um, there's like another magician out there. His name's Mark Bautista. Mark will do like a 45-minute show.
Jeez, man. Okay.
And we all look at that. And I think a lot of the buskers, and we're just in awe of this guy. And he gets a big crowd. I think he makes a good hat doing that. And you think on a place like Fremont Street, like, oh wow, there's just so much going on. How do you keep them for longer than 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think, contrary to popular belief, a longer show, where you're interesting the audience, like you make a better hat. Um, I never really subscribed entirely to that, but I'm kind of coming around. Um, so yeah, that's what I think about it.
Okay. Um, Speaking of that, you mentioned something about the hat, which obviously, when you're doing street performing, that is at the end of your show. The old pass the hat is how people are bringing in the money. And John Green had a good question around there. He says, "What are your best routines for getting people to stop and get the big moolah?" So, if it's not just routine wise that you have tips on, do you have tips in general on when it comes to getting the money, getting the hat? Any tips on that?
Um, well, for my 15-minute set, the last thing I close with is doing a bill in orange.
Hmm.
And that has really been a game changer for me. Like I was kind of introduced to that effect years ago from a guy named Chris Randall, who worked out on Fremont Street a lot. He put out the effect Inception, which is a really good Bill and Lemon routine. And over the years, I've been able to modify that and kind of do my own version of it. So for me, ending on a routine where you have a borrowed bill and it comes back in an impossible location, like was the difference in me paying my rent.
Oh wow.
And I've said that lots of times to different people. Um, so not everyone. Sometimes the buskers out there, a few of them are like, "Oh, I'll never do Bill and Lemon," and then a year later, they're doing it. Sometimes the standards are standards for very good reason.
Well said.
So yeah. As far as just randomly performing for people, trying to get good money for them, I'd say make sure your effects, especially if you're in a chaotic environment, are very kind of instant. They're disarming. Maybe you're not going into a long 4 ace routine on a table. Make it make it quick, make it punchy. One of the most amazing things I've been doing out there lately in the last few months has been Josh Jay's Clear Deck.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Is that the Phantom deck?
Yes, Phantom Deck.
Phantom
Thank
deck.
you. Um, and I love that trick because you can have like 6, 7, 8 people
Mm-hmm.
right off the bat take cards, put them back in the deck, and you have somebody hold the deck, and you tell everyone to gather round. So now you just pulled 8 people and the people they're with in to watch what's happening in this person's hand, and then you go through the cards and they're clear, and their cards are left, and people freak out. Um, so I'd say doing effects where you can involve as many people as possible as quickly as possible. That might help your money
Yep.
go up a little bit. Yeah.
Cool. Good stuff coming in here, guys. And you can tell from his answers. I'm watching your comments. You guys have a variety of questions, and you can tell from the answers that Sean's been there and done that. And that's really the only way that you get this information is by actually doing it. There is no shortcut to this stuff. Daniel Ricks had a question. We'll start to wrap it up after this. I know we're going on, I think, about an hour. Jeez, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I told you it went quick, man. When we were doing this before, I told you it's probably gonna fly right by. And you were like, "Oh, it'll drag." Yeah, right.
Oh, wow. Thanks to everybody, by the way. I really appreciate people tuning in and listening to me and putting up with me. Thank you very much.
You're awesome, dude. Here's someone that's also seen you. Every now and then you'll pop up on Facebook with some of your lives. You'll be live on Fremont Street. Sometimes you're just being funny. Sometimes you're just like checking out the area. He wants to know. I've seen some of your lives, Sean. For those who haven't, could you explain what is your usual setup and the requirements for where you perform on Fremont? Also, tour experiences performing in other street environments. So when it comes to your setup, I know you mentioned your audio stuff, the sound equipment stuff, but what does your setup look like out there when you're out there on the whole Fremont Street?
So my setup is the big speaker I described. The speaker is probably about close to about 3 feet, maybe, and it's on a rolling cart. On top of the rolling cart is a box. It's a black case called a Vaults case. You can find them at Office Depot. They're black and looks like an ATA case, but it's square. So that sits on top of the speaker, and I have a few props on that. That's what I roll with as far as my street gear. Now it's like 100 pounds of gear I'm rolling with me every day, so it's a little heavier than I'd like it to be, but it works in that environment. And as far as, let's see, you were asking me what are the places I've worked in for street. I've worked a little bit in Seattle. Let's see. What's that now? Oh, yeah, around San Juan Islands area. Okay. And I haven't really toured a lot of different street environments like many other street performers you may know. Like I said, I came out here and I really wasn't a street performer by trade. I really had to relearn, a lot to do it. Now, when I lived back in Indiana, I ran around to some local fairs and festivals, and I would kind of go do some street magic, street performing, and like really random, BFE kinds of locations, out in the world. And I had some crazy experiences, less than desirable, things in those situations. So you definitely want to find a good pitch where it's going to be worth your time. Don't put yourself in an iffy location where your security might be at stake. Be smart about it. But yeah, so that's, I kind of have a small, variety of places I've worked, to be honest.
Cool. And if you guys do head out here to Las Vegas, I'm sure you guys will all be here at some point in your life. This is kind of the place everybody comes to visit. Some of us come to visit and we end up staying.
Yeah.
It's kind
Stuck.
Of the way it is. Actually, someone's saying that right now. Mark Barber, He says he'll be in Vegas mid-March. We're going to see you performing. So will you?
Okay.
You'll be around in mid-March, I'm assuming, unless you're out of town.
Yeah, I should be on Fremont Street. So you're welcome to message me and I can maybe tell you where I'm performing at that day.
Sweet.
So yeah, sure.
Sounds good. Yeah, man. It's always fun to watch, whether it's Sean or any of the other magicians. Or there's so much fun stuff down on Fremont Street. It's a really fun part of
Hmm.
town. So I know you'll have fun watching Sean, but you'll be in such a fun environment. You probably won't want to go back to the main strip because, in my opinion, Fremont Street's the best part of Vegas. But what do I know?
Oh yeah, yeah. Fremont's so much easier to get around in. So like
Yeah,
the strip is just so long it'll wear you out.
yeah,
So
true that. True that. Well, I'm sure. Speaking of that, I'm sure I'm starting to wear you out with this chat. So I'll start to wrap
oh,
it up now. Actually, here's a question from Mark Bautista. Mark wants
Mark,
to know:
Mark.
can you ask Sean if he's going out to Fremont tonight? So will we I guess he's putting you on the spot here.
He probably he's asking if I'm working at a spot tonight. He's like, wait, if Sean's not going to be out there, then I can go to this spot. I don't
Okay.
know.
Now it all makes sense. Okay.
But yeah, Mark's actually the guy I was talking about. He does like the bigger, longer
Oh yeah, the
show.
45-minute show. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's really good. If you get a chance to see Mark out on Fremont Street, you should definitely see Mark's show. It's a great example. Even a guy named Chris Bentz is in town too. He's another awesome street performer, but he performs down on the strip by a casino called The Link.
Hmm. Okay.
So if you have a chance, go watch Chris work. So
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the same. The area you were just mentioning near the link is also now where Gazzo has been hanging out, right? Isn't that where he is?
yes,
Yep.
yes, Gazo has a area there. So
Yeah. So if you guys have ever wanted to see some of the best out there doing it, feel free to hang out down on Fremont, check out Sean, and then if you end up wandering down to the main part of the strip, you'll see Gazzo and some other guys too. There's so much magic in this town. It is great. It is great.
yeah, yeah,
I love it.
it's here.
I love it. This is definitely where it's at. Yeah. This is definitely where it's at. Well, Sean, I want to say thank you, of course, for hanging out with us. I've had some people asking about how they can find you outside of this. Why don't you go ahead? I'll give you a chance to take the floor as far as social media, anything you want to promote. Where can people keep up with Sean Scott?
If you want to keep up with me, you can find me on Facebook, of course, just under Sean Scott Magic. If you search Sean Scott Magic on the internet, like my website's usually the first one that pops up. So yeah, right away. So you could also get to me You could get to me from the link from Murphy's, site here for this interview.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm definitely ready to connect with anybody who wants to. So thank you.
Very good. Very good. Well, Sean, I appreciate your time, man. Hope I run into you sometime soon. I know that we're planning on meeting up.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully, again, we'll do another one of the meetups that we've done sometime in the near future, and hopefully, I'll see you before then, maybe even tonight, depending on your schedule. So,
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make that.
cool,
So
man. All right, brother. Well, appreciate you, and all the guys out there know they appreciate you too. And Sean's got some great magic. I'll remind you guys of some of his other releases here in just a second. But Sean, thank you, my friend, and I will see you soon.
thanks, Luke.
Cool. See you, man.
Bye, guys.
All right, all right. There you go, my friends. Say chat with Sean Scott here in Las Vegas. I would call this the capital of magic, the mecca of magic. This is where it all goes down. And Sean's one of the good guys. He's out there doing this stuff, and he's killing it. And his magic, as I showed you before, he's had a lot of great releases. I can show you. There's Sean again. I didn't mean to do that. But here is the website. Let me actually pull him off of here. Bye-bye, Sean.
Bye.
There we go. Here's the website. These are all available from your favorite magic shot. Rise, which you were talking about, which is the amazing can effect where you stomp on a crushed can and it becomes full again. Looks great. Render. Again, this was so far ahead of its time, and I mean that. I see here Cyril Takayama. I believe he used, or he says he didn't see it coming. 3D meets digital magic. Check out the trailer for that one. It's really cool. Factory Line is one of his older releases. He did mention it's going to be re-released sometime in the near future. Don't have any dates yet, but keep an eye out for that. Sean, if you just nod, is it still going to be called Factory Line?
Uh, I think it'll have a different name,
Different name.
and
Okay.
I'm blanking on the name.
Okay.
But
All right. So we don't know yet, guys. We'll keep you posted on that. Okay. Very good. And then also, I don't know how to pronounce this one. Banda, 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 Vendors. Uh, this one's really cool, actually. If you guys know the effect, bring Sean's. Hell, why don't we just bring Sean back on here for a second? Um, there you are. Hello.
okay,
This one is
later.
really cool because people have seen the old wallpaper or the old picture thing where you peel it. This is really cool. You
Mm-hmm.
do it with what, Sean? And I'll play part of the trailer while you talk about this. Actually,
Yeah. This kind of dates back, I think, kind of to an old, I think, Michael Weber idea.
yeah.
And then Paul Harris, I think, may have done something with it. And yeah,
Sean, the
it's
first
it's
question:
kind
how do you pronounce this, though?
of Bendar Zumu.
Thank you. God bless you. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah,
there you
yeah.
go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had this Japanese thing going on for a while. Couldn't shake it. So, yeah, it's kind of a peel paint effect, and I love the idea with a car, like kind of doing this. These people you're watching, I'm doing it to their car.
Oh God, sure they love that.
So they did freak out. And there's one here where I did it for police officers too. And it's funny, I did it, and as soon as I did it for the cops, they just start marching forward. They were just like, I was nervous for a minute. I was like, oh, they're taking this too seriously. Um, so
That's
yeah,
funny.
see, there they are. So they start to come forward, and then I had to kind of step and say, hey, hold on, let me fix this. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's kind of a real neat effect if you have the occasion to do it.
Looks
I
great.
just love the idea of wrecking something, of you know, messing it up and then fixing it.
Looks great. So you can do this on a lot of things. The main thing was the car, but it looks like you can do this on a lot of different things, which is cool. So
Yeah, it's some arts. It's some arts and crafts on the part of
okay,
the magician. But I will say that. So it takes a little time and dedication to make the gimmick.
okay, cool. Well, for real this time, I'll say my goodbyes. I'm glad you were still there because you got me through that name. So thank you.
Sure. No worries.
Cool. All right, my friend. I will talk to you later for real this time.
Okay. All right, Luke.
See ya.
See you. Bye.
All right, there we go, my friends. One more look with Sean Scott there. So here's his stuff. So much fun. Check him out. Keep up with him on the old socials too. He is out there. You can find him. And you will find me back here next week. I'll be back here live every Wednesday, New Pacific. Next week, I've got Tom Elderfield from the UK. He is a really fun performer, creator. I got to hang out with him for a hot minute at the Blackpool Convention. Good times. And again, guys, we are doing a giveaway. If you're just joining us, this week's giveaway is for Sandwich Change from Sans Minds. This is one of those things where you take a different card, place it in between two sandwich cards, and visibly that card changes into the signed selected card that the person picked. So you can win that just by liking and commenting on this video. That's it. And congrats again to last week's winners: YouTube Jacob Martinez Magic and Facebook Rick Robeson. They both pick up a free copy of Sentimental. So there you go. Free magic every week, interviews, chats, behind the scenes, all this good stuff going on for you guys. That's it for this week. Big thank you to Sean Scott for his time and sharing so much of his experience and answering so many questions. You guys are awesome, and Sean Scott is awesome. All right, my friends, I will catch you next time. Thanks for hanging out and getting unplugged with me. See you guys.